Fortunately, according to Gregory, sinners have the help of the saints. The belief in the intercession of the saints and the custom of appealing to them to use their influence with Christ did not originate with Gregory. Both the belief and the custom were much older than he, but he emphasized them and made them central for Christian piety. "Behold," he wrote, "the severe judge Jesus is about to come. The terror of that mighty council of angels and archangels is at hand. In that assembly our case will be tried, and yet we are not seeking patrons who will then come to our defense. Our holy martyrs are ready to be your advocates. They desire to be asked. Indeed, if I may say so, they entreat that they may be entreated. Seek them as helpers of your prayer. Turn to them that they may protect you in your guilt." Another aid to devotion was the holy relics. Gregory encouraged the collection and veneration of holy remains of the saints and martyrs. Locks of hair, fingernails, toes, pieces of clothing. Gregory taught, and most of his contemporaries believed, that these items possessed great powers, including that of self-defense. And if the saints and relics were not sufficient for righteousness in this life, sins could still be atoned in purgatory. This is a place of purification and suffering, not for those who die with serious offenses still charged against them, but for those who are not as yet altogether righteous. At death, the perfectly holy go at once to heaven, and the wicked to hell, while those of an intermediate character, who still have minor sins for which penance is incomplete, spend a season in purgatory. Surely, however, the supreme miracle, the key to all the other expressions of divine power, was the Holy Eucharist. According to Gregory, the Eucharist is a communion with Christ, whose body and blood are real and present in the bread and wine. Feeding upon them, we nourish and strengthen our spiritual lives. The marvelous power of the Eucharist, however, lies in its sacrificial character. It is offered by the priest for the sins of those gathered, not like Christ's death upon the cross for the sins of all people, but only for the sins of the participants, or of those for whose benefit it may be specifically offered. For these it has the same effect as penance, taking the place of a certain amount of suffering that the sinners would otherwise have to undergo because of their sins. It may benefit the dead as well as the living, the dead, that is, in purgatory, not in hell. If offered for anyone in purgatory, it will hasten the time of release. One of the better examples of Gregory's belief in the power of the sacred Mass is found in the Dialogues. While the incident is a bit long, it serves as a revealing picture of medieval piety. After telling of the death of one of his monks, who had been found guilty of hoarding money and had been severely punished, Gregory writes, 30 days later, I began to feel strong compassion for the deceased justice. As I considered with deep anguish the penalty he was enduring, I thought of a way to relieve him of his suffering. With this in mind, I called Pretosus, the prior, and said to him sadly, Justice has now been suffering the torments of fire for a long time. We must show him our charity by helping as much as we can to gain his release. Beginning today, offer the holy sacrifice for his soul for 30 consecutive days. Not one of these days is to pass without a Mass being celebrated for his release. The prior obediently accepted the instructions and left. Days passed, and being busy with other affairs, I lost count of them. Then, one night, Justice appeared to his brother Copiosus, who asked him at once why he came and how he was. Up to this moment I was in misery, he said, but now I am well, because this morning I was admitted to communion. Copiosus hurried to tell the monks the good news. Taking exact count of the days, they discovered that this was the 30th consecutive day on which Mass had been offered for him. Previous to This Copiosus did not know that the brethren were offering masses for justice, nor did the brethren know that Copiosus had seen him in a vision. At the very moment, therefore, when they became mutually aware of what had taken place, they realized that the vision and the completion of the 30 masses occurred at one and the same day. They were now convinced that the brother who had died was freed from punishment through the sacrifice of the Mass. The doctrine was widely accepted in the Western Church from Gregory's time on and helped to give its peculiar tone to the Christianity of the Middle Ages.